This is Charity Ziegler, and I'm responding to the chapter we read about Web 2.0 in our 21st century schools and some of the barriers we face to moving forward with those applications. A basic summary of the article. The article focused on some facts about the access to technology that we have in our schools today. It's increased exponentially, and we have unprecedented access to technology, and including the web in most schools. But even with that improved access, we still have low numbers of schools that are integrating technology into education in a quality or meaningful way. We're still using the applications in kind of a rote, basic way. Some of the reasons for that are some barriers as they relate to my district. Time, of course, teachers and educators are always pressed for time, especially in this time of such pressure that we have in terms of assessment and standards that we have to meet. So time is always an issue. I will say in my district we've set aside a lot of time, probably more than a lot of districts, for PLC and for professional development. So we do have the structure in place for technology training. I do think that we could always have more and better, more job embedded training in technology. The chapter discussed how a lot of districts have faced some personnel cuts in their tech support staff. We haven't had that. We've been fortunate enough that we haven't really cut our tech staff. I think I'd love to see us do more training in an embedded way, an ongoing way. We do have what we call innovation spaces, which is a group of teachers, a group of classrooms, and sometimes even whole buildings that are piloting more progressive use of technology and the web in their classrooms. And they do get more intensive training from our tech support people, including both IT and our ed tech staff. So we have both of those departments in our district. They get intensive training, and they also get some more on the spot or on the job training when they're rolling out something big in the classroom. They might even have staff members there available to support them on those days. So we have those structures in place, but they are not used in a broad sense. So they still are a barrier for a kind of a holistic integration of technology in the district. We have a lot of administrative support for technology, but in general, we are a little cautious as a district, so we certainly don't want to be the first to have done something. We want to be progressive, but we don't want to be the first ones to try it out. We kind of want to learn from others' mistakes. So it's support, but it's cautious support. And the school culture goes right along with that administrative level of support. We do have a digital divide like most places. It's different in our district. We have a very high socioeconomic district, so most of our students have incredible access to technology and web-based devices, but our students who don't, I think, almost feel the divide very, very deeply because they're so kind of few and far between. So that's something unique that's to our district. Do I think the digital divide can be resolved? I do. I think it absolutely will be resolved, but it will take time. I do think that as kind of the typical marketplace trends happen when our web-based devices are just simply more common, and we come out with more and more competition, they are becoming more affordable, and therefore that will help the divide some. And we are getting greater public web access, even through our public libraries and other kind of commonly visited areas. We're having increased public access to the web for the use of those more affordable devices. With that being said, though, I do think there's a risk of us being complacent. So those of us who are passionate about this, we still have to be able to advocate for better access, including in our schools, and what we can do in the field of education to improve or lessen the digital divide. Like I mentioned, I think there is that typical cycle of the marketplace that will help just naturally lessen this digital divide, but we have the responsibility of advocating, and in our educational efforts, we can do simple things. If it's not as broad and sort of forward thinking, or we're not able to do initiatives like one-to-one, maybe we simply can't afford that in certain districts. We still could do maybe extended hours at the school library, so students are having access that way. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for educational applications, though of course we would have some for educational applications, but for also students to be using those in a recreational way. we would probably have to provide things like late buses so that we wouldn't have that transportation barrier to this access. But those types of efforts are examples that we can do in education as advocates to lessen the digital divide. I do think we'll see it lessen as long as we are keeping those efforts in our consciousness. Some skills that are needed by our 21st century learners when they are leaving our charges here in high school. I think I agree with the standards set forth by ISTE and the school media specialist that was mentioned in the chapter. But just to kind of summarize, I guess, my perspective of the 21st century skills, I think our students all need what we call habits of mind. And that's a set of skills that simply helps them be good learners on their own, maybe self-directed learners. We certainly can't teach them everything they need to know, but if we can teach them how to learn on their own, being resilient, problem solving, having those critical thinking skills, being able to take risks in terms of learning and kind of thinking outside the box, all of those I lump into habits of mind. Of course, our students need social emotional skills. They're so important. A lot of the standards talk about communication and collaboration, and for me, those are absolutely essential, but they're also not possible without the solid development of social and emotional skills. Media literacy, everything that we're doing on the web is taking in information through the media in some form or another, whether it's like an official media outlet or it's simply citizens sharing their information. It's all through a form of media. So we need our students to be very literate in how they are understanding and interpreting that information. It's different than maybe what they would have been interpreting in a traditional type of education. We also need our students to be innovators, the makers of the world, having that entrepreneurial spirit. That's really important for all of our graduates. Technical communication skills, I think of that not so much as face-to-face, but more as reading and writing kind of on the web and web-based applications. That technical reading and technical writing is much different than traditional from our textbooks and from pencil paper types of applications. Digital citizenship, I think that goes right along with media literacy, but also thinking about what we are putting on the web, what we're publishing in those Web 2.0 applications, that we want all students to be responsible in what they're publishing and realize that that thousands, if not millions, of people can see what they're publishing, and thinking about those types of effects and consequences of what they're doing on the web. So those are really important skills, of course, that our students need to have. Financial literacy is something that, regardless of students who might be attending college or maybe going directly to the career field, we want them to be successful in the long term of their life. So that's something that we can use lots of technology applications to teach them, but I do feel like financial literacy is a really key set of skills that our students will need as they go on to be successful. The impact of the global economy on my own use, I think I've become more of an activist because of the internet. I'm simply more aware of global issues because they're more prevalent, more easily able to be communicated across the globe. Applications like GoFundMe, I'm able to kind of speak with my money and support causes that are anywhere around the world, and that might be an innovation in health, something that's kind of outside the box, and I'm able to participate in that through something like GoFundMe, whereas I would have never been able to do that before. My consumer habits are changed too because of the internet, so I do a lot of internet shopping, and a lot of those consumable goods are created around the world. So the economy around the world affects the way I spend my money and what I spend it on. I also have this access to goods that I'm able to purchase that has never been true before. So I'm able to, again, like I mentioned before, kind of speak with my money and buy more sustainable goods that may have been very difficult for me to find depending on where you live. But now it's easy to find because of the internet, and I'm able to buy things from all over the world in that way. An example of that would be free trade types of products, where I'm able to purchase that just from my own couch, as opposed to having to travel miles and miles and kind of being counterproductive to the idea of sustainable shopping. So that's something that's definitely changed through the internet and how it affects in global economy for me personally. Technology training that I need in my current role. I am a school psychologist, so I do a lot of assessment of individual students and who have unique learning needs. And I would love to know better how to assess their technology skills, whether that's maybe the hard skills or the soft skills or both that have to do with technology. But I would like to be more proficient in that. I'd like to know kind of what's an expected effect of a student's potential disability on their technology skills, and maybe the reverse of that in a positive light. How are they maybe more easily able to access information because of technology, because through their disability? So there's some training that I would love to have there, kind of going right along with each other. Data collection tools, there's many of those, such as observational applications that you can use on your simply on your smartphone to collect data about a student. I'd like to know more about that. Data interpretation tools, things like making charts, graphs, making more user-friendly or reader-friendly reports when I'm writing reports for parents, for teachers, even for students to learn about themselves. I'd like to know about the tools in that area that can make that information more easily understood by my audiences. Adaptive technology, thinking of students with disabilities, there's constant advancements in this area using technology, and I'd love to just have kind of a ongoing update in that area. In our district, we are somewhat equipped for 21st century technology. We have, I mentioned earlier, innovation spaces, kind of those pockets of more progressive education. I think we're using those as a pilot, as a model to be a little more widespread as time moves on. We are fortunate to have smart boards in every classroom, including our special education classrooms. That's new in the last year or two. Document cameras in every classroom, lots of web memberships, both for students that they can use at home and at school, and for our teachers too, for their own development and their own resources in lesson planning and things like that. We have a unique program called CAPS, and it is a early career type of training for our high school students. There is incredible technology resources there. They are doing things like learning how to use 3D printers and doing some engineering applications. They have designed a chair for students with autism that is going to actually be going on the market in the next couple of months. So they're doing some really incredible things there. Again, it's more of a pocket. It's kind of a specialized area, but we do have the capabilities and the expertise to do that. It's just not as widespread as it could be. Some of those limitations then that we're facing, like I mentioned, not things that are preventing some of these technologies from being widespread. Our network is not as advanced as it could be. We do have a lot of students that could bring their own devices to do that initiative, but our network could not handle it. And we are not at a place where we're doing one-to-one initiative like some of our neighbors are doing, so that's a downside. Advantages to Web 2.0 in school, because we can publish our work immediately and everything's sort of public in 2.0 applications. Our students have really purposeful work products. Their families can access their work products and communicate with them about it. Obviously, that idea about collaboration, that back and forth, that's possible in 2.0. And our students with disabilities are able to access the web and learning in really unique ways now, thinking about text to speech and speech to text, which is wonderful. Disadvantages, though, of course, safety of our students, this vast net, I guess, that we're kind of spanning for them. There's lots of dangers to them in terms of their privacy and other factors, of course. So that's a huge disadvantage. Developmental appropriateness, some of the back and forth collaboration that we are expecting students to do or that we'd like to see kids do, I'm not sure that they're always necessarily ready for that in a social emotional sense, so that's a concern. And of course, the digital divide provides some unequal access that is concerning as well. I have had students who have inappropriate use of the internet, doing some cyberbullying, even through Minecraft, which we think of as a really positive thing. I think plagiarism is a little bit easier to do now with Web 2.0, which is unfortunate. We've had some students be pretty dismissive towards assignments in a public way on an application like Edmodo. So that's unfortunate as well. But overall, the benefits of Web 2.0 and the progress in that certainly outweigh these downsides. We can work around the downsides.